In this video, I'm calling this DNA activation. What does that even mean? So what inspired this talk was that I was talking to a friend, and she said, Nancy, I love listening to your videos, and don't get me wrong, but I'll get to a certain point and I think, okay, I'm tracking what you're saying. But then I get to a point where I'm like, I have no idea what she's talking about. So I almost named this video, Liz, this one is for you. But this won't be the title, but Liz, this one is for you. And for anybody else who can relate to what Liz said to me. So what I would like to start with is DNA activation. So I'm going to have on my nursing hat, or I'm going to describe a little bit about what happens, what is DNA? How does it come to be? How does it happen? And what is this activation business that everybody's always talking about at that cellular level? So I'm going to be talking about that, and then we'll get into the metaphysical light code aspects of it. So, I got to throw that in there. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Nancy Rebecca. I am a retired registered nurse. I love the physiology of the body. And as a psychic healer, intuitive, and teaching psychic development, what I can tell you is that I love the human energy field as well. And there's a lot going on. We're in this 3-year process of creating this kind of light body. I know people are like, I don't even know what that means. And can I let you in a little secret? I don't even know what that means. I have a concept, but you know what? Things are changing so rapidly that how I understand it now may be different than how I understand it a month from now. And that's why I'm always saying we're stronger together than we are apart, so that we can contribute to this unified consciousness. Okay, so DNA, your DNA, this is a beautiful foundational question that Liz asked. And it's about spiritual activation. It is about ancestral light codes, creation codes. But we're really going to start with what is the biology? And then from the biology of the DNA in the body, I hope to really bridge that with the energetic and spiritual realms. And again, for those of you who it really bothers that I'm reading a sheet of paper, I apologize. I'll do my best to focus on the camera. All right, so where do DNA strands begin? They begin with conception. So they begin when your mother and father contributed to your genetics by conception, meaning that the sperm fertilized the egg, all right? And in that fertilization process, the spark of the DNA created the union of the genetics that you would be getting from your mother and your father. So DNA originates at the moment of conception when a sperm cell from the father merges with the egg cell from the mother, all right? Now, each of your parent contributes 23 chromosomes, which then 23 and 23 makes 46 chromosomes. So that's what you carry in a new zygote. So a zygote is the very first initial cell that is the very beginning part of who you are. Now, chromosomes contain DNA strands that are coiled. Now, it'll always say like a double helix structure. But for me, DNA strands, they look like little ladders, so they've got 2 lines, and then they've got the little lines that go like this, the little steps. And so then there's 2 of those, and they twist around each other. So that's why they call it a double helix. Now, inside you, when you were first conceived, is a zygote. So you are that one little cell that starts, and every chromosome contains hundreds to thousands of genes. So I'm trying to, so you have 46 chromosomes, and within each of those chromosomes is hundreds to thousands of genes. So when you hear me talk about your genetics, that's what's contained within the chromosomes, and the chromosomes contain the DNA strands. Okay. I'm like, have I lost you? So that's okay. I've had to go over this a lot. Even though I'm a nurse, I still have to go through it at times when my when my brain can conceive of these concepts. Okay, so and then within the hundreds to thousands of genes, specific segments of the DNA that can encode traits, growth instructions, and even ancestral information. So your one fertilized cell that's you, smaller than a grain of salt, contains, this is the part that blows my mind, contains all the instructions, the instruction manual in that grain of salt that knows how to completely build you as a human being. All right. Isn't that exciting? Isn't that like crazy? So, okay. So then how the DNA functions from that moment on. Okay. So now you've got that once fertilized, the zygote begins to divide. So it divides into 2, and then the 2 into 4, and then the 4 into 8, and I don't know. It multiplies into multiple cells. And guess what? Each one of those cells, so after it's divided, each one of those cells contains a full copy, a full instruction manual of your DNA. Every single cell. This DNA remains the same in nearly every cell of your body for life, for your entire life. So, doesn't that blow your mind? Like, it blows my mind that every time a new cell is created, it's almost like learning ancient mysteries through oral tradition, where it's like, I'm going to teach you, and I'm going to pass the teaching on to you orally, verbally, not written down. And then you're going to turn around and you're going to teach the next person. And then that person's going to teach the next person. And so it contains that knowledge inside every single cell. So now, here we go with the energetic and spiritual view of DNA your DNA as a divine blueprint. So DNA as a light body template. So DNA is not just like a biological material, but your DNA also has a vibrational pattern held in it, a light encoded blueprint that comes from source, from the God of your heart. It comes from your ancestors, okay? And it even comes from star lineages. And they have literally, I'm not just making that up, because they've literally found like stardust, stardust in the earth. Like, I remember my little brother always eating dirt. It's like, stardust in the food. Like, they literally have found stardust and everything. And so we have that as well in our body. Many believe that at conception, you have a soul signature or a higher self frequency, then becomes braided into the DNA strands like a divine filament of light. So this double helix is a biological reflection of a much vaster multidimensional code of 12 strands or even 144 strand light codes that are just waiting to be fully activated. Now, Before I go on, I just want to slip in this little story that I read about, and it just kind of blew my mind, and you're welcome to look it up. But there was a young woman, her father had died, and she had his ashes, and she worked in a laboratory, and she was curious what his ashes would look like under a microscope. So she got permission to use one of their high powered microscopes for her, just a little bit of her father's ashes. And what happened was when they show that image, it's just like light burst still coming off of her father's ashes. So even after he's left his body, and even after the body has gone through that process of becoming ash, that there was still containment of light within the ashes. So again, this is what we're talking about. Light encoded blueprints from source, your ancestors, even your star lineages. And your soul signature or your higher self frequency becomes braided throughout the DNA strands like divine filaments, that double helix that we're talking about. And so that light still can remain with you. I remember once my teacher led our class through a meditation where we were to kind of float above the earth and see from all of our past lives where our physical bodies had been buried in the world, and then calling any residual light that was left in our bodies that maybe died even 1,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago or 100 years ago, like to call our light back to us. Well, first of all, I thought that was the craziest thing, and it was the coolest thing. So, for any of you who'd like to try that, I encourage you to do it. All right, so conception as a Stargate moment. So, in some traditions, one of those being the Egyptian tradition and Lemurian teachings, that at the moment of conception, a portal opens between dimensions. And I have been shown this as spirit. I believe this to be true because in my clairvoyance, I can see that light come through. I have at times done readings for someone where there's this light emanating from their belly, and I'll say, "Are you pregnant?" And they'll say, "No. Why? Why are you asking?" And then they call me later, a few weeks later, to tell me that they are pregnant. And so I can literally see it's like this portal of light, and there's this light illuminating. And through that portal, not only do the physical chromosomes combine, but ancestral imprints, karmic blueprints, soul mission codes, and galactic energies are infused into the DNA template. Now, I'm sure this isn't scientifically studied on that part, but let yourself have an open mind about it. And does that truth align with you? Well, what I can say for me as a nurse, I'm highly curious about it, and I would like to believe that that's true. So, this is what gives each person their unique vibrational resonance that have you accessing deep soul memories, some of which will be awakened for you later on in life. And so this is where I'm talking about when the blue beings of light, the star beings, come in, and when this blue plasma started coming to Earth, and I'm like, what is this blue plasma? Why is it of high value to the star beings? They were like, well, it's full of light codes. So then it's like, all right, so then what is a light code? And then that's what I asked them. And then they said, well, light code is full of new high levels of knowledge and wisdom, because the human DNA that has been lying dormant is becoming more activated. Kind of the doors are opening up, ready to receive that greater knowledge. And like I was talking about, are you losing your memory or are you going through a spiritual upgrade? That's exactly what is happening in the brain. It's like we're going through this expanded rewiring or restructuring so that our mind can be more efficient through neuroplasticity. So, where do the strands come in? Well, biologically, DNA has those two strands, but metaphysically, people will refer to 12 strands or 24 strands or more of the energetic filaments, and where these light codes can kind of settle into the DNA, and then the DNA gets activated and can allow, we'll just say instead of a light code, allow higher levels of knowledge to come in. There was a woman that I met in India, and she is a Swami Ma, was what she is respectfully titled, Swami Ma. And she would say, she would meditate every day, and she would chant every day, and she did her lessons every day, and she had her own temple. And she said, when she didn't describe it as her DNA, but this is what I imagine is happening, is that as she was raising the frequency of her body, her DNA could get activated. And she said one day she couldn't play the piano, and then the next day she could. It might be a few years later, she had never picked up a paintbrush. She picked up a paintbrush and she painted this beautiful painting. And so what she says is that those systems can be locked unavailable to you, but then as the light body is becoming lighter and brighter, it's like, all right, you can handle this next level of knowledge. So that's kind of exciting, don't you think? I think so. And so the light codes stored in the multidimensional energy field, auric field, etheric field of your DNA. So those strands do not replace your physical DNA. They're just seen as quantum light templates. So what does quantum mean? So quantum is basically the energy field around you. It's where there's movements of atoms and I don't know, all the little things, all the little bits that go with atoms, that it's just like it really gets activated in the etheric field of the DNA. And these strands, they don't replace, like I said, the DNA, but they do, the quantum field can get activated by sound. We've been talking a lot about sound frequencies. And when I talk about a sound frequency, it can be a frequency that we cannot hear with the human ear. Through intention, so just by setting your intention and desire, it's like the little DNA cell, the little DNA strands go, oh, did you just ask and intend for this level of knowledge? And then it gets activated, and then you go, wait a minute, I don't remember asking for that. So meditation, of course, cosmic frequency events like solar flares, for example, full moons. What was the one last April when we had a full solar eclipse? And soul initiations, like if you're going to a retreat, or like I just went to Egypt and visited some sacred sites, those can activate quantum light templates in my DNA. So epigenetics is where, all right, so you've got your physical DNA, your double helix, your 46 chromosomes that were formed at conception between the egg and the sperm, right? And then you have your epigenetics, which are the chemical, kind of human organic chemical markers influenced by your environment. So it can be literal chemical environment. It can also be emotions, beliefs, and old ancestral trauma and ancestral strengths. I always like to add that as well, because how did our ancestors make it through all those traumas? Well, they were made of some strength there. And so we always have to remember we draw from that as well. Energetic DNA, light codes are multidimensional strands that do hold that higher knowledge, also holding your soul's mission, also holding your cosmic identity. So these are sacred moments when conception happens. Sacred moments. When the soul enters, the DNA begins forming and divine codes begin to weave into your human blueprint. Like, really think about that. In that moment of conception, this portal of light opens and these divine codes begin to weave, and just that one little cell has everything contained in it for your creation as light. The light is building you. You aren't becoming light, you're already light. You're becoming human from that light. This is both tender and transcendent, bridging the physical miracles of life with multidimensional mysteries of your soul's origin. So, when you are imagining your light of creation, that spark of creation that comes from your mother and your father, this is such a rich, nourishing energy of creation itself that you are being bathed in. The cord connects you to your ancestral soul. And in the Sangoma tradition, they don't consider your ancestors just bloodline, but your ancestors can also be family that has adopted you, that it can be people you consider your aunties and uncles that were maybe live next door. Maybe your ancestors can be angels and guides, Jesus, Mary, Buddha, the God of your heart, the great, great ancestor of all. And so this cord, this connection at conception connects you to your ancestral soul, the wisdom keepers, and deep time, primordial sound of time before time even existed. And then that Stargate appears, that sacred Stargate that leads to the moment. And as you step closer to the Stargate, the air around your conception becomes electric, becomes timeless. You are not just returning to a biological event. You are entering into a cosmic agreement, a soul decision, and a merging of physical and spiritual matter. And then when you're ready, you step through that gateway. You end up arriving in a radiant space of pure potential. You witness the sperm and the egg, each carrying ancient intelligence. So I really want you to really kind of bathe in this knowledge of potential and sit with it. Does it feel like it might be a truth for you? So you witness the sperm and the egg, each carrying ancient intelligence, being drawn towards each other. Allow yourself to feel into that divine intelligence as this union comes together. There is a flash of light that occurs. This flash of light is you. This is the first moment of you. And they literally have videos of this happening. That the moment that the sperm fertilizes the egg, they actually have microscopic video clips of a flash of light happening. That is you. That's the first moment of you. So let yourself witness the golden spark of your soul blueprint and feel the double helix begin to spiral into existence of how it happened at that time. And knowing now, even if you are in your elder years, as I am, these are times where these light codes that are not new to us, they're just new to us because nobody's ever really talked a lot about them before. Symbols, sacred frequencies, begin to imprint your strands. Some come from your ancestors, some from your soul, and some from the stars. So just consider what type of agreements that you made during this incredible, sacred time of ancient union. So I hope that that helps you understand a little bit more about the biological aspects of DNA, about truly that process that you went through when you, as the sacred soul, knew that you wanted to come to Earth, which is a whole other video. But let yourself sit with this information, and maybe you can look at your own cells and your own DNA and your own physical, incredible body of yours in a different way. All right, take care, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, we are always stronger together than we ever have been apart. And for some of you, if you have memories of your conception, or if you have memories, pre-womb memories, I would love to hear your stories. All right, everyone, take good care, and let's have fun activating our DNA.